and it will be available. And it will be available after. So the reason I host this as a informational session is simply because we don't always know what is the next step. We know what we're doing, we know what we're involved in, we know what could, some things that could be. And I have found that I have been so fortunate in my past and in my journey to work with amazing people. I love the comment that you said, Karen, or maybe it was it's Lindell. I don't feel like I'm saying that right. It's Lindell, right? Did I get it right? Okay.
Lindell, yes, but anything close is fine.
I had the accent wrong there. But I loved how you said like my thought partner, right? Like you're so fortunate when you develop these relationships, meet these people, invest in things that literally change your life. And then you have something of value and service to give back. So that's really what, our goal is today. This is very informal. We're going to really take this where you want to go. I'm going to share the agenda with you, and you can help me to organize my time. I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen really quick. I want to show you just a couple of things over here, and forgive me if I look to the left a little bit because my screen is over here. But, I'm Susan Gaddy. Hello and welcome. I'm so happy that you're all here. And I have a really big mission. So, I come from the world of learning and development at a time when, it was almost like the kids at home that were seen and not heard. So I grew up in some very large corporate organizations in the training department where we were back of the house. We were, we were not considered business drivers. There was, we were really just creating courses and workshops and e-learning. And quite frankly, we were completely disconnected from the business. And, I went on to create, a freelance company as an instructional designer, where I sort of carried this mentality through, right? And I would tell you, I was the best there was. And quite frankly, I'm going to brag a little bit because it's true. So I worked with, I did freelance instructional design for close to 10 years. And I worked with a company called Clarity Consultants that placed me in the top organizations in the world. I was their #1 instructional designer. I always had a project. My clients came back over and over again because I created great training. And then, you have that moment when I wanted to expand my own business, and I realized I didn't really have the CEO capacity, right? I didn't have a CEO mindset. I didn't even really know what that meant. I was struggling immensely to become that person. And I fortunately got connected to a really great coaching program called Becoming Limitless, with my first mindset coach, who just blew me away. Like everything I thought I knew to be true was not. And the biggest thing that was not true was that while my courses and workshops and programs were exceptionally good and technically proficient and people loved them, they actually had very little impact back on the business. And it wasn't until I had this personal experience that I realized that we were missing some really big, huge elements and components. And that really launched the next version of my business, which is when Imix ID was launched. Now I consider myself a chief learning officer, an entrepreneur. I am national conference speaker. I speak at a lot of the national training events. And, my mission is to make training, actually, if I really had my big dream come true, it would be that there would be no more training departments. They would be the performance department, and there really wouldn't be trainers. There would be advisors, and there would be performance strategists that actually made the link between information and transformation. And the reason I'm sharing all of that with you today is that as you figure out, let me just do this. As you figure out how it is you want to grow your business, or I should say, what is the bigger frustrations in your business, training, believe it or not, is actually probably a really good solution for you in one of 3 ways. So I'll give you a chance to just go ahead and either drop something in the chat or come off of mute and tell us. And we sort of talked about this a little bit earlier. But when it comes to scaling and growing your business, what are some of the biggest frustrations? And I'll just go ahead and say, for some people, it's just even what, right? With what, right? How could I do more than I'm doing right now? Karen, it's like you wanted to jump in. else would you add?
Yeah. So one of the things that is really powerful for me or that impacted me is that I spend a lot of time working in my business, but not on my business. So for somebody who's been in corporate America, who had been in corporate America for 30 years and now 3 years out in my own business, I've attended, created, oversaw, led hundreds of leadership development programs, and I have tons of information that that's in my computer hard drive somewhere. And now it's just a matter of actually stepping into the create mode to pull it together in ways that have been impactful for me. So I teach it in my coaching and in my advisorship, but it's actually working on my business and doing some creation so that I can share that with my clients.
And do you feel like it's a bandwidth issue? Like your client, like what we become like sort of our biggest success, right? Becomes our Achilles heel. Like we get so good at what we do and we become known for what we do, but you can only serve so many clients in a one-to-one methodology, to the point where, I don't know if you experienced this. I know I did. I was at an income gap, like an income cap. Like I couldn't literally serve anybody else.
Yes.
I couldn't bill the level of money. Like I was billing as a freelancer, $60 an hour, $70 an hour, and I couldn't hire a team because of that. Right. I could barely pay myself, let alone, paying them. Are those the things that you're starting to experience too? And then, and forget the time, there's like no time to actually work on the business because you're so immersed in it, right?
It's very true. And, right now I am actually building my bench. So adding people to the bench to start helping. And so when the work comes in, obviously they get paid as the work comes in and they're assigned to it. So that'll work. But yeah, there's, some of the frustrations of not having somebody that I can rely on as a right-hand person. Fortunately, right now, my husband is going to be stepping into chief operating officer for my business. So that's going to be really excellent. So yeah, it's this, I have plenty of amazing colleagues like Lyndall. So people that I can reach out to and I can collaborate with. It's just actually working on my business. It's the time. So me times 4, 5 would be ideal.
Yes. Okay. So I am actually, before we wrap up today, I will share like a quick little tip on that one, because we can almost solve a lot of that, like almost immediately, to just even free up a little bit of time. So remind me at the end, I'll share that with you as well. Is there anybody else that just wants to add around, what are you bumping up against in your business or just in your own mindset around where do you get blocked when you think about, I want to scale, but I'm not sure what to do? And for some people, sometimes they even just say like, I don't connect with enough clients, right? I find it very hard sometimes in the online space to really connect with a large volume of new people every day that could possibly become a client at some point in the future. Those are frustrations that we hear from people all the time. So let me just tell you why I was asking this question, is because training actually solves all of those, which is pretty amazing. And actually training in the online space. So I've been an online consultant since 2008 when I first got laid off and started this sort of freelance job. And, so like the pandemic happening and bringing even more people into the online space has kind of been like my favorite thing, because for years, people didn't really want the online training. And that when you're trying to run a business, if people don't want or need, right, or value the service you offer, it's an uphill battle. Like when you have to just change someone's mind. So the best thing that happened was companies started to value online training in a way they never had before. They just simply didn't like the feeling of it. So we're going to kind of talk about both of those things, because I hear that a lot from people too. But for the most part, training really can be the thing that solves almost all of your problems across the board. And so I want to just introduce you to these 3 types and just give you some examples. And then if this is spurring sort of anyone to say, hey, can I talk about this program for a second? We're going to stop and take those questions. Because most people think about this one in the center, right? Which is like what I would call the signature training program. And it's typically, it's the thing that we say can build your empire. So it's the one product you can sell over and over again. Instead of selling to one person, you're selling to multiple people. You can play around with price a lot. So if your one-on-one work is the higher priced offer in your business, this becomes a little bit more of the desirable lower priced offer in your business. But it is the thing that allows you to scale. And what's really nice is, and it sounds like most of you have a thriving one-to-one business right now, which is great. What this does is, like, I think of it as like a two-legged stool. It just props everything up. So I feel like one side of my business is always scaling a little bit better, and one side is always performing a little bit better. So it's constantly offsetting the costs. So when I got my one-on-one, the clients that, I do bespoke custom programming for large corporate clients, as I grew that, I could hire the team, Karen, which gave me then the time to be able to do the work, because it is a time consuming process. Like, I think there's a misconception out there that I can record 5 videos, put them in a Kajabi site, and that they're going to sell like hotcakes. No, right? No. And there's very little impact over there. So we're going to talk about that as well. And then even in the pandemic, it was like this line of business, like my corporate line of business, disappeared, like literally disappeared overnight. But I had this other side of my business that kept me going. So I feel like I always felt like, as a freelance, and I'm curious if anyone else feels like this as well, I always felt like I was one client away from bankruptcy, right? Like if that one big account goes away, like what am I going to do? So actually having 2 separate products that were sold in the business congruently took away a lot of anxiety around being a CEO for me. So that was really, really huge. And I think what's great about the signature training program is that it sort of does become the thing that you're known for. So, we're in the process of becoming known for helping people to create their signature training program based on our disruptive spark training formula, which is the thing that will catapult you in front of even more people. So again, Karen, like right now you have a corporate audience, your signature training program is designed to be for a segment. So that could be, individual people within corporate, right? So like my company could pay for me to go to this training experience that you have. And so now I have, the custom programming, and I have this programming that, a leadership program that anyone could send their people to. You can also look at it as, so sometimes the companies want something already off the shelf. That's becoming very popular. And so you already have the database built out, the reoccurring model, all of those things. And it's less expensive for them. And quite frankly, you can charge per person. So it can get, pretty lucrative in there as well. I'm thinking about like Vanita and Rhonda. Sometimes your signature training program becomes the thing that you do that you want to start teaching others how to do. So if you wanted to escalate in the One Hope wine community and become more of a coach to One Hope wine consultants, this signature training program is a really great path for that. It could also be, I know you said you had the travel business. Within the travel business, again, it could be creating a program for other travel agents to learn how to sell or market or design, like whatever segment of that you want to do. So your signature training program is kind of really versatile, and it's designed to go after a segment of the population. So it's not the entire thing that you do from a custom bespoke, but generally the one that is what's most asked for. And you can then create one version of that you can package and repackage sometimes different ways. So for our disruptive spark training formula, any of you as an individual could join that program and learn to create your program, but we also sell it to corporations. So if we'll go into a corporation and we'll sell this strategy to an entire training department and we'll take them through as a core unit. It's the same program. Like I created it once and now I have a couple of different uses for it. So the signature training program, I want you to think about as sort of something that is somewhere in that neighborhood of a beginning program, is more of like a 4 to 6 month or 4 to 6 series of classes. As you get better with it, a lot of times people extend it into 9 months, 12 months. For me personally, I don't like starting at 12 months because the commitment level is way too much for me at the 12-month mark, especially if I don't even, you're testing, you're trialing, you don't know what works, you don't want to spend a lot of money in your materials, you want to get it out, get it in the market, get people using it and understanding where you're getting results and where you want to keep capitalizing on it and where you want to make changes with it. So I always start with the signature training program. I'm curious, does that appeal to anyone? Is that something that you had in mind? I'm gonna stop just sharing for a second. Karen, is that what you were thinking?
Yes, definitely. So I've been I have somebody that has been supporting me in this, but I've been building what it is that I would want to include in a signature program. So have a couple of ideas so far, and now I just need to actually create it. Gotcha. I have to just put all of my thoughts into creation.
And into actually creating the program. And do you have like your target audience? Do you think you would do it as like something that like, maybe 6-figure CEOs that are looking to scale might be able to join that program? Or do you think you'd go after like corporate? Like sometimes you have to get really clear on like what your audience would be.
Yeah, it's true. And I think that needs further refinement, but likely corporate for a couple of my topics. So it depends on the topic, but at least one of them corporate.
Awesome. Yep. So the other way, and again, anyone else that wants to chime in, please do so, or just drop your comments. And so I always start with the core. The signature training program is really like a core product in the business. And it is the thing that you can scale the furthest. Oftentimes you can easily, within a couple of years, I say easily in quotation marks, because it is a couple of year process, that can become a 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-figure stream of revenue in your business that sits right along with your, boutique client work. And here's the other thing is that once you start to get income coming in for that, that's generally reoccurring revenue. Sometimes people are paying in full, but often there is a structure in play where they're paying every month. So you, again, this one-to-one model, I always have this fear that like 1 or 2 clients drop out, and you're sitting on team, you're sitting on systems, you're sitting on all these monthly expenses. Where's the money coming from? It's coming from over here. So they kind of really feed off of each other and really complement each other really, really well. Now we can go in either direction. Does anyone have a preference? Do you want to hear about the calling card or do you want to hear about the ascension? Let's go up first because I feel like this is one that most people don't talk about. And when I share it with people, it's often the one that they say, never even thought that that was something that I might want to do. So when I think of Ascension program, there's a bunch of different ways to think about it. But for me, from a business standpoint, we all know that the amount of money it takes to cultivate a new client is significantly higher than the amount of money it takes to convert a client that's already happy, that already likes you, that you've already done work for, that they've already gotten results for into another product. And I can't tell you, the majority of the people that I work with don't have anything else to offer their clients when their initial hire work is done. So again, Karen, I'm just sort of using you because you're like in my line of sight, but you might have a client that hires you for what would they typically hire? Like a coaching package? Would it be a 3 months, 6 months, something like that?
Yeah, coaching or consulting, advising around work transformation.
Yep. Okay. So you go in, it's usually like 3, 6, 9, 12, whatever it is. And quite frankly, I'm sure they're thrilled with you. Right. And so now they're happy with you. It's like, so what else do you have to offer? And that's where the Ascension program comes into play. then I want to give you some things to think about with this idea of ascension. This is where we see like master classes, 2-day experiences, retreats, things that are more mastermind and community collective, as opposed to necessarily the longer term coaching and development work. Like they tend to meet less frequency, but a little bit more intensive. And they can be sort of a reoccurring thing. So I'll give you an example of one of the things that we have going on in our business right now, but we've done so much work around how do people achieve performance success? Like how do they take information and then be able to actually implement it and change behavior as a result? And we've come up with a really good success formula around personal performance. So we just started hosting a quarterly, actually it's once a year right now. The goal is to make it quarterly, 2-day retreat where we help people to use this strategy to create a vision and do a vision casting session around the goal that they want to achieve. And then we work with them once a month for 3 months after to make sure we unkink the hose and that they're actually achieving that performance goal. So that's an example of an Ascension program. I almost never even offer it out in the world, right? It's generally something I keep behind the scenes. And I always share it with clients that already know me, value me, and that this would be a thing for them. So those are really great things. Mastermind groups, master workshops, 2-day events, even 1-day event, even something as simple as a VIP day. So you might have in this early phases of developing your signature training program, like maybe not the whole thing flushed out, but you have 4 or 5 pieces of really good content that you could share with someone, let them go take the actions, then they come in for a VIP day, and you get the opportunity to help them, do whatever it is that you need to do. I consider all of those things ascension type programs. And you can think of them as upsells or downsells, but they typically are targeted at people that you've already worked with, and they're a much higher close rate because you're servicing people. One of the things we do in the consulting practice is the a la carte menu. So again, like I started we can create any training program you want, and we really can. Like we can do any course that you want, but that's not what we advertise in the business. We advertise, hire us for the strategy. But yet on the back end, we have an a la carte menu that we share with only our internal clients. So we'll create your videos, we'll create your PowerPoints, we'll do your logo and your branding. We even offer a lot of marketing services because that's kind of a big pain point for people as they're creating programs. So those are all a la carte services. Again, nothing I would ever advertise, but something that we make a good deal of revenue on because it ends up being of service and value to our current client or those people in our circle. Anyone thinking about any ascension ideas? Sometimes it's almost the easiest revenue you can pick up, and it's like the simplest thing to do.
So I have one, a disruption intensive that is designed for people who can't wait to have results, right? So maybe they're not necessarily on a journey, but they need to step right into a role and have immediate results. And so I do have something like that I offer. I just haven't really marketed it specifically to any particular group. So it goes out in my social media and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's almost as easy as going back to, I'll give you a little tip of something we did in the company that's been actually making us a good deal of money, is just having someone responsible for every quarter, at least, depending on the client relationship and how long it's been, doing a recheck. Hey, what are you working on? How's everything going? Is your program working well for you? Hey, we have this new thing. I thought of you. Let me know if you'd like the details. Like those simple little calls sometimes add a good deal of revenue to the business. And it really is all kind of training, just training focused, just repackaging things, in a certain way. So that's the ascension model, always a good one. And I feel like that's the one that people often don't think about. And here's another one. And this is for everyone. And I think I think we can all safely say that growing a business online, growing any business, let alone one in the online space, connecting with the volume of people is like the hardest thing. So, you all know this, I'm sort of preaching to the choir here, but you meet 100 people, maybe, right? 5% of those people, 10% of those people are actual potential clients. And maybe another smaller percentage of them are ready to buy right now. So there's this constant need to be extremely visible and to show up in a way that just connects you to new people every single day. And that's really where I think having a solid, what we like to call a mini offer or a calling card offer is a great way to really increase your visibility and create new connections that spotlight you and your talents. And this is a perfect example of it. So I'm not really here to sell anybody anything, but I'm here to just be of service and share my expertise. But yet we always end up getting business out of these, because if it is something that someone needs and they're ready to buy, it gives them a chance to get to know me, to see me in action, to determine whether or not I'm the expert that can help them. I love to do live mini events. Those are my favorite things. I'm not really the automated person. I don't always see the value in the automation. I do and I don't. But I love the things that build your business and expand your reach. So some of my favorite things to do are informational sessions like this. We have, so I belong to the Unstoppable Entrepreneur Program. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of Kelly Roach and her program, but I've been in this for 2 years. I would be thrilled to make an introduction. I think it's the best money I've ever invested in myself and my business. And it has truly rounded out my ability to have like a fully functioning company. I had a lot of skill gap. Like I didn't come from the business world and I didn't know how everything functioned together. And she is sort of like the expert in the online world. So it's been a phenomenal experience, and I would be happy to make a connection for anyone that's been considering her program. But in her program, they do the live launch. She does a 9-day model. That's a little too much for me. I scaled mine to 7. And that one we're actually going to get ready to start doing as a paid program. So these things can be paid. They can be free. They can be an informational session like this. They can be 9 days. They can be 2 days. A lot of clients that I work with that are just getting started, who don't want to do who don't really want to do like have a database, they'll do a series of 4 to 5 workshops, 3 to 5 workshops that they host live over the course of a month or 2 months. And that's where they'll start, and they'll charge $400, $500, $600. They'll start that way. Again, like a lot of times that it's either a downsell item for them, or it's a companion to a one-to-one, it's pulling people up, whatever it's doing. And those calling card things can really expand your base. This is where you can do automated things as well. So we do help people create generally a good number is like a 3 to 5 series of videos that are automated, that get dripped out. We have a little specialty that we've been playing around with that I've been calling it the bookshop. I don't really know what to call it, but and we'll get into this a little bit, but the problem with the automated stuff is that there's no access to you. And that really is what sells. Like that's what people want. That's where the value is. Most of those recorded videos, nobody watches them. They never get to the end. The results are, the result rates are terrible. People spend all this time and money and creating all these things that nobody's even using. So we created, like we call them sort of an automated mentoring experience, or a self-guided mentoring experience. So you'll get a book with like a typical workbook, but linked into it are the videos. And the videos range from providing guidance, like sort of the deeper, providing just directions, to actually sharing inspirational stories or providing deeper meaning, like all the things that people really like. So those are all like a calling card offer. And like I said, you can make them as elaborate or simple. Like, I think this is a very simple one. It's me, it's my expertise, it's sharing some things of value. And then we ultimately, people that want to actually create a signature training program, which is one of the things I offer, we'll go deeper and see if it's for them. So those are your 3 training offers. Give me a little feedback. Which one is sounding most exciting to you in your business? Or which one are you didn't know about and are enjoying learning about? And you can always put it in the chat too.
Signature coaching is a big one in my
The
mind.
signature program. Yeah. Mm-hmm. If you're going to build one, if you have the bandwidth for one, I don't recommend all of them. If you have the bandwidth for one, the signature training program is truly the one that I think has the best ability as a business driver to free up your time, to get a second stream of income coming into your business. And then, Karen, this is what I was going to tell you on the backside. It gives you the ability to up the price of your one-to-one service. So you actually can start taking less one-to-one clients at a higher price point, and that frees up that necessary time in your schedule. It's like, and I would tell you, even like, just raise your prices now. That's always the first thing we can do, is just raise your prices so that you can take one less client, or you can take 2 less clients, so that you have bandwidth to invest at least a day a week, or blocks of time in a week, towards building out your business instead of just working on it.
I do have a question around these signature programs. I mean, and I understand that it's probably based on, many things, but what are typically the prices that people are assigning to their signature programs?
I got to tell you, it is fast and furious and wild and woolly, and it really runs the gamut. So like, I belong to a lot of programs where people have signature training programs. They're very advanced, and their comfort level in what they charge is very advanced, and they have the testimonials and the things behind it that support the pricing. But we see 25,000, 50,000, 70,000. I mean, we see crazy numbers and people paying it. That was always the thing to me. I was like, wow, who would ever spend that much money? But they do. There's lots of people out there spending all kinds of money. If you've got a program that is that valuable, right? So you have to make sure that the program you're creating is getting the clients the results like you get in your one-to-one, which we teach people how to do. I would say more of the average range, on the corporate side can really vary. You could easily be charging a couple $100 a person, and maybe you're training 10, 15, 20 people, even in the hundreds, you would start to get into volume pricing. But if you were going to do like smaller groups, you could easily charge $400 to $600, times that by 10 people, it's like $6,000. It can be really lucrative money. An average price point on the low end of a higher ticket signature training program is at $395 a month. And we see them going all the way up to $2,000, $2,500 a month. So like Kelly Roach's program has like been building over time, and she's, I think, $2,500 a month. And there's hundreds of people in her program, like hundreds. And she has the second and third tier programs too. And she's not alone in that space. So,
just one quick question. In a typical signature program, is it like, how many modules would there be? How long would a typical signature program be? Just to give some idea on context.
So here's where I think it gets really interesting. So I think it feels in the beginning like I would have to have, XYZ, right? I have to have all these recorded modules. I have to have all these things. I have to have all this. I have to have all that. what we find is that the programs that people get results in and that they pay the most money for actually have less recording and more access. And it's almost counterintuitive to what we would normally think. And let me show you really quick why this is. This is like the perfect.
What do you mean by access?
So yeah, so this is the perfect lead. This is the perfect lead, and it's access to you, because what we teach in the Disruptive Spark training formula, and I'll show you a couple of things, it's about filling the performance gap. And what most training programs do is provide information. So your workshop, your video, your handouts, your podcasts, like TED Talks, any of those, all of the things that we typically think of when we think of training is actually just information that expands knowledge. It does nothing to help people actually become or achieve or do the thing that they actually can't do. That's we call the performance gap. And so the majority of programs that get created, especially in the beginning, focus very heavily on this database of content, which most people don't even finish. It's like insane what the rates are, especially if they're left on their own. So why do, like, if you've ever purchased a program and never done it, or, you know, you're like, that was a waste of my money, or, she had good information, but I still can't do the thing that I wanted to do. We're seeing just so much of that right now that, and here's why. These are like the big three, right? Is that as people, we actually need accountability. If we could do it on our own, we would have already done it. So we need access to your information, but we also need built-in things within your program that keep people accountable and simply coming back over and over again, especially in the online world. Even when people pay the money, even when they say they want this, there's so many things that distract you that without some mechanism in your program constantly bringing people back to center, they simply just stop. They simply stop and they say, oh, that program didn't work. So that's one of the first things. The second thing is I need clarity, right? So this is why I like to run this on Zoom. If I was doing this through StreamYard, I would be saying all the things, but I wouldn't be able to answer and make sense of the things that are important to you. So we love to see training programs that add live sessions, coaching sessions, live workshops, master classes. In my program, we do 2 live calls a month. One is on the signature training program where you actually join a call. We split actually into 2, and if you want to focus on actually building the materials, we have our lead instructional or graphic designer. If you want to focus on building your program, we have our lead instructional designer. But the second call that we do, it's called a Make Money Boot Camp. And so we know one of the biggest hurdles for our people, one of the biggest hurdles is having a program. The second biggest hurdle is selling the damn program. So we incorporated a monthly live session where we call them co-working sessions or live sessions. We're actually teaching you a marketing skill and then having you go do it in the moment. So it's not uncommon for us to be like, okay, social media audit today, who's got, do you have an actual call to, do you have a social post this week that is literally a direct call to have a one-on-one consultation with you? All right, let's build it. And we literally build it and put it out in real time, because what we know over and over again is there's conceptually understanding what it is you need to do. And then there's the actual doing of it, which is the scary part, right? And when you have clarity and when you have somebody there with you, and when there's a group of people all in it in the moment, your willingness goes through the roof. If you're sitting at home by yourself, the likelihood of you doing that is, it's really, really low. So clarity is a big thing that people crave. And then here's the other thing. It's just this deep desire for human connection. I think the saddest or the worst rep, I want to say, in the online training world is that we've stripped away the very thing that we need: coaching, guidance, nuance, right? And just the emotional support of being able to do things that are scary, that are unknown, that make you uncomfortable, right? That trigger you in ways that we get triggered when we're in the end of our comfort and familiar zone. And programs that include that element are always more successful. So that's what I'm saying around access to you. So most online programs, what we end up creating is either, a database that just overwhelms people. First of all, we create too many things in that database. Less is more. We've been helping people this is one of the, like a lot of times people come to us with their program that's not working, and we help them make some simple tweaks to it. And one of the things that we always help them do is to help them think about creating a system or a process. I'm giving away a little free advice. System or a process, and only include the handful of things in the recorded modules that someone could follow on their own. The rest of those recorded modules are actually things you share in the moment when someone needs them. So I don't know if you've ever taken a program and you open up this database and there's like 75 videos. People just go into overwhelm and shutdown. Or even worse, they're messing around in places they shouldn't be. Like, we want you doing this one thing on purpose. And so we pull out all the noise and all the extra things until you need them. And when we're working with people to build their databases, we encourage you to only build things that people actually ask for. The majority of databases we audit for people are filled with things. And I'll say, what was the question a client asked? What was the reason you recorded that? Oh, I just thought it'd be really helpful. If people need it, they'll tell you. Then it's helpful. Otherwise, it's just a distraction, and it's your time and money, right? It's a lot of time and money, sometimes to put these things together. Karen, does that answer your question?
It does. It sounds like that, these signature programs really can be, there's a continuum of what you can find in them, but it sounds like it's a little bit of everything. So it's learning, it's talking, it's coaching, it's live sessions. And it sounds like some folks can overwhelm with videos. What is the right mix of videos to include in a signature program then?
It would be hard to say off, like just in general. I think it tends, like part of what we do with the Disruptive Spark formula is that we have a very clear vision and view around the 4 elements of a successful program. And then we have a blueprint process that we take people through to actually create what that is. And we get your blueprint together and then you go build it. So in a signature training program, again, earlier I told you we encourage people to think of steps in a process or systems, depending on how advanced your topic is, right? So yours could end up being either one, I feel like. You might be teaching one, like I'll just put it this way, in our signature training program, there's 4 steps to designing a training program that actually gets results. So the program is geared to just these 4 steps. But I have a mastermind program that is the systems an organization, a company needs in order to be able to have a team that can serve as performance strategists. So in that instance, there's 5 systems. In this other program, there's 4 steps. Now, in each of those, a good number is anywhere from like 3 to 5. Probably videos, worksheets, handouts, like things that go along with it. That tends to be a really good number. So figuring out how many steps or figuring out how many systems, and then having the right materials in place to support that is a big part of what we help people to do. Because otherwise it gets like insane. You're just building. And then here's the other phrase that I love to share with people all the time: build the first version you can change 2 more times. So again, a lot of people come to us after 6 months and $10,000 in design costs and just time and like videos and like purchasing all the bells and gadgets. And really all you need to do is go out and teach this class live. Like that's the joke, right? All you need to do is get a handful of people, give them a good price, teach the class live, and just see what works. Sometimes in the beginning, I'm giving you all the secrets. Sometimes in the beginning, we just record the live class and that becomes the first thing we put in the database. Right? You know, there's a belief out there that it's the recorded videos and all the goodies. Yeah, they're sleek, they look really good, and there's a time and place for that. But I'd rather know that you were spending that money on really good content that converts already, that's getting people results, versus like things we don't know or haven't been proven or tested yet. How about anybody else out there? We're coming up right here at the end. I want to show you like 1 or 2 things. But I want to just make sure that I'm answering anything else anybody needs to see. But let me just show you really quick. I think this is a good recap. I love this slide. And just sort of like a North Star if you're thinking about tackling this, right? I want you to think about all the traditional things when we think about when it comes to training is really substitute the word information. So pull out the word training, it's information. And its job is to expand, right? Which we need. It fuels knowledge, right? That's the expansion. And here's the other really cool thing that your training does. It gives people a desire, right? Those are the 2 things, right? And then once people have the desire, right, they want to become it. They want to embody it. They want to own it. They want to feel like that person. And there's a huge gap between here and there. This is the gap that we solve with our disruptive spark training formula. We call it the performance gap. This is the good stuff that needs to get into your programs. And it's really, and it's really based off of the things that I was sharing with you earlier. But I love this as a visual, right? Because I think when we think about creating training programs and traditionally how training is done, and I did this myself as an instructional designer for, 20 years, I was creating the best of these widgets, but I was completely missing the mark on what actually drove behavior change, what actually drove performance. This is where your training programs have the most value and you can charge the most money for them. And then I love to say this and leave this as a parting word, but it's only crazy until it works. And then you're a genius. So get really comfortable considering yourself crazy, right? Because it's the crazy people that go off and change the world and do really amazing things. So I'll leave you with all of that. I do have a Facebook group that we've been growing called Training That Transforms. We're about to change it into the Disruptive Spark training formula. And if anybody is interested in booking a consultation call, going a little bit deeper, considering what you might be able to do, and is there a product or service we can help you with? I do have 2 things that we offer, the Signature Training Program, and of course the Disruptive Spark Mastermind, which we're doing really as a 1-to-1 right now. And then of course, these are all my social channels where we share all kinds of things. So thank you so much for joining in today. Is there anything else that I can answer for anybody before we wrap up today? What do you think if I were to ask you right now today, if you were going to create a program, which one do you think you'd create? The calling card, the signature, or the ascension? What would have the most value in your business right now?
Signature.
Signature for you. Awesome. Well, I appreciate your time today. And like I said, I would love to connect with anybody that's interested in going a little bit deeper and talking about how we might be able to help you out. And I wish you good luck. Keep me posted on your process. And like I said, we share lots of information in the Facebook group, as well as on my social pages. So get connected in that way. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.